Hello everyone, welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is May the 10th of 2023. We are back from our pseudo break from last week. We didn't actually technically go on break. We talked about manga anyway, but it was just not as long as we would normally, because we had no chapters last week because of Golden Week in Japan. And we're back, and there's a lot to talk about that happened recently.
So much. People who are regular listeners will know that like I have been talking about like, oh, Kodansha is coming out with a manga app that's coming out here. Realize like, oh, this is an opportunity to catch up on Eden Zero. I still don't know what the mechanics of it are, and we'll get to that. But it was going to be releasing on Wednesday, i.e. today, so it was gonna be weird. And then like fucking Monday night with no setup, nothing. Viz just announced, hey, we have a new app, or not a new app, but a new subscription model on our Viz app where now you can basically get all the Shokugekon, or I'm mispronouncing it, but you can get basically the other magazine that Viz here kind of translates a lot of the stuff for, featuring series like Homie Can't Communicate, Call of the Night, Detective Conan, all these things that are now suddenly getting simulpubbed and access to like a vault like you would on the Shonen Jump app.
And it's a big vault.
Yes.
There's like almost everything that Junji Ito has created, almost everything that Rumiko Takahashi has ever created. Because it's one of the series being simulpubbed, literally all 1,100 plus chapters of Detective Conan.
I like the fathoming how much work had to go into translating all of that. I know that like Detective Conan was being like published in volume form, but I don't think it was anywhere near as close to the 1,000+ chapters of it that are out. Everyone was like, they stealth dropped this to just fucking destroy K-Manga right before its thing. Who knows if that was an intentional thing or not. They just were like, here it is. It's a new service. And I imagine we'll get quite a lot of use out of it. People have already been recommending series that are available to that on the Vault. Certainly series that we can get legally and completely is great when it's for a moderate subscription service price.
It's $2 a month, which is the same as the Jump subscription service model started off as.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, pretty good.
Obscenely great price. Then K-Manga came out. And if you follow Twitter at all, you have no doubt, even if you just follow me, I talked about it very briefly. This was a suspicion a lot of people have. This is a model that is used very frequently with like webtoons, and I guess also the like version of this in Japan follows a very similar pricing structure, which is very Microsoft points. Like you put money in, you get points out, and you can use points to buy chapters. Usually the first couple chapters of the series are free, but then everything else you had to pay for, some of which you can rent with tickets that you earn daily. I'm not even going to get into that part of it because it's like, oh, do you want to read chapter 30 through 80 of this? They can go for a ticket, and then 80 to 100 you just need to buy. Those go through different point systems, usually chapters being like 70-ish points, unless they're brand new, in which case they're about 100 points. What that ultimately amounts to is it's not a subscription service. I will eventually get to this for Eden Zero. I don't have it this week. As I said, it literally came out this morning, and there's more to this too, by the way. I will get to that. But I just want to note, I will not be talking about Eden Zero this week. I will try to get to it next week, and I will try to continue to stay on top of it for the show through this legal service. However, this legal service sucks ass. I had intended to use this as an opportunity to also catch up on Fire Force, an opportunity to catch up on Blue Lock, all these things. That's just not going to happen, because while I'm okay with spending like $5 a month or so to read Eden Zero, I'd have to do that for every series I wanted to read that's like on a weekly schedule. So it's not a great system whatsoever.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I did not have incredibly high hopes for this subscription service that they were going to announce, or at least this platform that they were announcing. Uh, but I kind of was setting my sights on, oh, it won't be as good as like the Jump app is.
Yeah.
This is essentially the way that it was, but worse.
Yes.
When it was available on and a bunch of sites like Comixology, where they had a pay per chapter kind of model. But so a lot of it is that way. Yes, there are some free chapters you can get, but it also it's just more confusing in order to get stuff.
There are multiple tutorials on the opening page as to how tickets,
and they're not good tutorials. Like, I should not, when I open up a manga app, and I'm looking at it right now, see a thing floating by that says earn up to 50 points, how to use tickets, how to get points, before I see one that says, oh, 3+ volume free read. Like, that's when I open up a manga app, that's something that I expect to see as an offer. And this is all before you even get to the listing of all the manga that are available. And look, there's a bunch of here that are, quite popular right now. Rent a Girlfriend is on here. Nagatoro's on here. Your boy Kong Ming, for those of you who, are into that weird series. Vinland Saga, Fire Force. These are all manga that, are coming out right now that are very popular. They are so hard to see because there's all this information being thrown at you, squeezed into these tiny spaces. If you open up either of the Viz apps, you look at something, there is a big picture associated with it and a title. And that is all that there is. If you want to know more, you tap on it. You don't get all this stuff that says, oh, here's half the title for some of these longer titled ones because they had to squeeze it in and they have to end it with an ellipses. And then how much of it is available to read for free right now. And that's it. And then there's all this stuff that feels like you're being pressured to buy stuff right now. You mentioned Fire Force wanting to catch up on it earlier. There is a limited time offer for Fire Force right now where you can read 25 chapters for free. Ooh.
I want to know. I want to be very
ends tomorrow.
I want to be not only that. I want to be very clear about something. I read about 90 chapters of Fire Force through a $5 subscription on Azuki. So Azuki, which is still out there, great service. Like, there's a lot of issues with the pay per chapter thing. It has been proven that you can generally get series for cheaper just buying all of the collected volumes than you would buying all of the individual chapters at this point.
Right.
It's a weird thing.
That's how they get you. So.
Yeah. The thing that, of course, a lot of people are talking about or making jokes about is the fact that technically you can get series chapters for free if you just don't mind doing a couple quick little things like watching videos and maybe playing some games, download it. If you've ever played like a shifty mobile game, you know the ones that are out there, they're like, if you want premium currency, you could download this shifty mobile game and play it till level 13. You'll get some currency. They have that in this app. You can download, I don't know, Top War or whatever, and play it for, 30 levels. I don't know anything about Top War, but you play it for that, and then you'll get, 60 points or 100 points or whatever. And they also have a free video you could watch. You could watch a video, and you'll get make a chance at a jackpot of 50 points. I got 5. They give you 3 chests at the end. You pick one, it gives you a point total. And then I got 5. And then it was like, do you want to try again? And I assumed like, oh, this is their gimmick. There's 3 options. I probably have to kind of watch 3 to get the 50 jackpot. Nope. Every time you watch it, it's 3 new chests again. You'll never know what you're going to get. So technically, yes, if you're super strapped on cash, you could watch videos to get the 100 or so points that you would need to get a free chapter. But I don't know. It's very strange. It's a service. It's like an option in there that I have no intention of touching. There's also a thing that you could read every day they'll have like read this chapter and you'll get 5 points. It's a way to like pull people to a new series. Like I think the first one was like Attack on Titan. And I don't hate that as a system, but 5 points is not necessarily worth it unless they're like trying to expand your horizons, which can be great. Again, 5 points.
It's a good idea. That is a good idea in theory. I think, like, hey, if you want to read some of the stuff that you really want to read, you could check out some of this other stuff. And then once you've read that other stuff, maybe you'll be interested in wanting to spend in order to get stuff for that one instead. It's an interesting idea. But this stuff of trying to jump through hoops in order to read manga, like, I would almost just be happier. No, I would be happier if they literally just put everything behind a paywall and pay for it individually, because then it's like, at least you know what you're getting. You don't have to go through all this trouble of trying to figure this stuff out and try to keep track of 3 different currency systems. I think that they have
tickets, points. I think there might be something else. It's worth noting, things you purchase with tickets you don't own, you rent them for like 3 days or something like that. There's just a lot of oddities to it. So I think a lot of people were expecting it to be like this, and I do want to pull back slightly because I think this app is getting reamed, which isn't necessarily fair. As I said, like, the part you dunk on obviously is like this weird gimmicky point system that's super predatory, which does suck, to be very clear. But I do think there is some value to this service. It's worth noting that a lot of the stuff, or some of the stuff that they say they're simul-publishing or kind of advertising, are not actually being simul-published. Like Inland Saga, for example.
Yeah.
It has, I don't know if it's AI censorship, but it also is using censorship. So if you're somebody who does not like your manga censored, recognize it's like the same thing like as a Square Enix app when that came out. It'll just kind of have like giant blocks. It also does the same thing the Square Enix app and other apps do, where it sometimes splits chapters into 2 different chapters. So you have to pay for each. I haven't explored that too extensively, so I don't know how frequently it is. I'm sure it's a bigger thing if you're like trying to read an entire series, but I don't think that's the value of this app unless you have a lot of disposable income or a lot of time. But again, if you have a lot of disposable income, you'd probably be better off just buying the volumes digitally, because it's generally going to save you money. So I think we will use it to read Eden Zero. Beyond that, if I was like looking to add something new to the recap, I would probably be more inclined to go look over at the Viz app and see what new options are available there, because I don't think this is a sustainable system.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, if you want us to like read like Fire Force or whatever, then it's not what we're gonna use that app for. So it's it's disappointing in the sense that, like, look, whenever one of these things comes out that has the potential to just expand the number of people who are reading manga on a legal platform, you want it to be good. And I mean, on top of everything else, it's also region locked to like just North America.
Yes.
So that's not good too. There's a very large English speaking readership for manga that is outside of North America. I know that there's, of course, a huge rights thing involved, but it feels like this is not going to really move the needle very much in terms of how many people are going to actually use it over many other means out there of reading stuff. Honestly, oddly enough, I think that Nagatoro is probably the best represented series in terms of what you can actually read on this app. And I think that and I saw, like, it was weird enough when I was checking stuff here. There's like a couple hundred thumbs up maybe on some of these really popular series, and then there's over 1,000 for Nagatoro. So I think the community for that series was just like, all right,
everyone wants it.
Go push it.
Yeah,
we got manga talk.
We got tons of manga. So next week I'll catch up on Eden Zero and we'll talk about it. I guess that's another thing I should note. They have, like, currently, because it's brand new, special running deals. And then after they leave, I don't know what the pricing models. I don't think there's $1 pricing point after they go away. I think the lowest I can spend into the system is $5 at that point.
Yeah, and I don't understand, like, what the hell is going on. Like I said before, Fire Force has a sale where 25 chapters are available free, ends May 11th. It's May 10th. The app launched today. Why is this going on?
Oh, Nick, this is holy shit. I didn't see this. I'm going to show you this on my phone. It is literally like a gacha game opening. I just unlocked a free ticket for today. So, hot dog. I can't wait. and this is super exciting. I can't wait.
You can read one more free chapter, Quinn.
Yeah, I can read one chapter in the middle of a series for 3 days, and then it's gone again.
What if the tickets you can't like stockpile them? It's like, no, you got to use them right now.
It probably is like that. I feel like.
Oh god, disappointing. All right, we got to talk about a weird chapter of My Hero Academia, guys. This is just odd in terms of how it's paced. It does come together, but it's one of those things where it's like, why does it start this way? And then you end the chapter. Oh, that's why it started that way. It's chapter number 387, Congealing, where we open up not with any of the people involved in any of the fights going on right now, but instead it's, I guess, that one prison that Gentle stopped people from escaping from, where Getten and Mr. Compress happen to have cells that share a wall, and they're just kind of chatting about stuff.
It's very unfortunate if you're Mr. Compressed, because Getten is so cold that his cell, by nature of sharing a wall with it, seems to also be very cold. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yep. He doesn't complain about it, though, so maybe he's like, yeah, that's cool.
And it's like, I love the cold.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's like Elsa from Frozen. The cold never bothered me anyway.
Yeah, especially with this giant gaping wound in my butt. It's fine.
What?
That's how he deliberately ripped open his butt.
I thought you meant Elsa. I was like, did I see the wrong version of Frozen? Was there a wild, like, Frozen X? Like, Marshmallow's like, fuck you, Bob. And he threw, like, a shard through Elsa's ass. I'm just like, ah! I can't show this to my children.
The fact that you know the name of the giant.
Do you want to know why I know the name of the giant snowman, Nick? It's because he's your ally in the Kingdom Hearts 3 Frozen world. And that is exclusively why I know his name. You don't get Elsa, you don't get Anna, you get Marshmallow the Snow Giant. And I've never been happier.
It's like, look, we couldn't get any of these voice actors back. So.
What
about Josh Gad? What about Josh Gad? Anyway, so Getten talking about his blood, his Himura blood, and how thick it runs, because there was presumably incest and inbreeding going on in his family line, and so were a lot of people who, just kind of like had a bunch of branch families. The branch families intermarried because they didn't want to, dilute the blood of their super powerful ice line and stuff. So he says, yeah, as a result of that, by insulating themselves from everyone, well, the clan, of course, was doomed to shrink and wasn't going very well. And then eventually the head family started selling off children into marriage, and that basically marked the end of the line. And then, all the families kind of scattered, myself included. Redestra found me. With each generation, meta abilities grow more complex. Blah, 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 blah. Quirk singularity, blah, 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 blah. And then he just is like, all right, so I told you my whole thing. Anything you got? Anything? And Mr. Chris is like, I saw, you see The Good Doctor lately? You see those memes about the guy with the face and the stuff? No? You stay off the internet? Okay. Well, that's just all I've been doing lately. It's just looking at that.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of The Good Doctor again. What was it?
That's all it was. Meanwhile, where stuff is happening, Endeavor has heard that his oldest son is going to blow himself the hell up. So he has gone out with his one arm remaining, because it got ripped off in the fighting, to try and stop him. And Dobby is just a full burning skeleton, basically. He's got really no face left, and he is just emitting constant fire and screaming, watch me, Dad! Ah! So he's doing well. He's doing great.
Yep.
and he launches a giant fist made of fire at Endeavor, which I guess reminds Endeavor of when he came up with the technique as a little kid. So that's nice. And he just grabs onto Endeavor, who's demanding, like, you've got to stop, you've got to put out the flames, I don't want you to die. But Dabi is just kind of like screaming out to, like, you know, random members of his family as if he's like reliving childhood memories. And Endeavor realizes, like, there's something, his mind's just gone, and this fire is so intense, and yet for some reason his body still hasn't fallen apart. There's something crazy about him that's like keeping him together. What is happening? And he looks close because you know, they're right next to each other, and he realizes something, which is that Dabi's quirk has evolved, not awakened, but evolved. You see, it's different. When awakening and evolving are different. This only happens when someone's about to die, basically. And he realizes that in the cross flame shield that is over Dabi's chest, there is also a patch of ice. He has awakened his mother's quirk, his mother's ice quirk, which is preventing him from burning himself completely out. And Endeavor's life essentially flashes before his eyes, or rather, I guess, Toya's life flashes before his eyes all the time that they, you know, spend together and everything that has led up to this moment. And there's this visual of, like, Dabi, you know, but not falling apart, burning up Dabi, kind of like jumping into his arms like they're like playing like a dad and son. But he's going to explode. Like, it's all going to go down. And Endeavor says, like, I'm taking full responsibility for this. I've got to atone for all the stuff that I've done. And I know you've been watching me all this time, and I couldn't be there to watch you. And you were someone I needed to do right by. So he wraps him up in a bear hug, and he says, I'm not going to let you meet your end alone, but I won't let anyone else get caught up in our tragedy. And he starts to shoot fire out of his legs to take off into the sky. And he thinks, like, I can't, you know, cover enough ground enough quickly, so we're just going to go straight up into the sky so that when he explodes, it'll just be the two of us who get taken out. But before it can get very high, we get that reminder of what Getten said at the beginning of the chapter, that Himura blood runs thick, and Rei has appeared. And she is using her ice quirk to cool some stuff down, even as her body is burned up by the very massive flames. She's starting to get scars and stuff right away.
Oh no.
Well,
how did you feel, Nick? Because it wasn't until the end where I was like, oh, Homura must be her.
Yeah, she's from the Himura line. Yes. I mean, there's a couple of nice things that I like about this. I like that we are stressing the importance of Rei's role in, you know, Todoroki's family. Not just, you know, the Endeavor's a fucked up dad plot point. It was weird to take the roundabout approach of having Getten talk about it and then be like, oh, okay, that's why Rei was, you know, sold into this marriage, was because the family line that Getten's talking about, it used to be this great thing. And it's like, all right, but also, like, I guess this means that, you know, everyone who's got ice powers is part of this family, I guess. And it was also a little bit weird. I know that the bunker that the Todorokis were hiding out in was the only one that was in danger of being within the blast radius here. But it is kind of weird that she just showed up from there.
I assume the rest of the family also theoretically will. Like, they all
Possibly.
escaped. And then they were like, hey, there's Dad and Toby, or whatever his actual name is. Toby. But, like, hey,
guys, Toby is Dabi. We figured it out.
Toby is Dabi. Everyone has a secret identity. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it or anything like that. I didn't feel a ton from it. I'm kind of excited to see, hopefully, a little bit of a conclusion here. But I said that last time as well, so who knows?
It would be nice to be able to put a capper on one of the many threads going on throughout this massive battle. I think that's kind of one of the things that's been affecting our view of this arc, is that nothing's allowed to be resolved at all. Even minor battles like this stuff involving Spinner, it's like, so how did that turn out? I don't know. We haven't cut back to that since the whole thing with Kurogiri waking up.
Yes.
So I don't know what happened.
I don't know either. Let's move on. We have so many manga to talk about, so let's cut over to Undead Unluck. This is number 157. Save You, Save Me. That's not that, but it felt appropriate. We get our annual popularity poll results. Hey,
Yeah.
Fuko's in first. Makes sense. She's become the main character of the series and has been for quite some time now. But Andy is, of course, in second. We get Gina in third, Ana in fourth, Shen in fifth, and then one of the more surprising things, Juez in sixth, not that. Tella is seventh. Everyone loves this gay boy. They're like, I love you, and your boyfriend's right there.
Boy.
Yeah. Rip is still in there in the top 10. But I would say beyond Tella being seventh, none of this is truly that surprising to me. But I am happy for him. He looks very happy.
Yeah,
he doesn't. He looks a little nervous. He's like, this is shocking to me, and I don't know how to handle this. Why are you guys pushing me in front? But I bet he's happy.
He's a little bit blushy right now. He's the center of attention. Yeah, that is definitely the big surprise. I mean, Gina, of course, got a big spotlight in this reset arc. So yeah, definitely makes sense that she's up there. And Anu has just kind of always been just a really great character. So that too.
So we open up the chapter then with Phil guiding our cast to his room, where he's like, hold on, I gotta get some food, wait for me. Fuko takes a moment to like look through some photos, and is thinking like, I wasn't able to predict the scenario with just the info for the artifacts. There's no air. How's he able to walk? Like, none of this is really making sense. And then she notices that Phil sort of gets hooked into this machine and is being fed that way. And she's like, wait, you have a mechanical body? He's like, yeah, when I was 3, I got sick, so my mom put me in this body. She transported my brain and nothing else, so I guess I'm not a robot, really, but I basically am. There's only like 10% of me that's organic tissue at this point. And just notes, I think that calling me a robot is just fine. Nico is there. I guess Creed and them met back up, and he's like, let me take a look. And he notes that Phil is damaged. He has a lot of wounds all across him, and he just kind of has a sad look, and he's like, so your mom, do you love her? And Phil's like, yeah, I love her the most of all.
Well, but he says it like, yeah, I love her most of all. Like, just totally blank faced.
Yes.
Not a lot of facial expressions off the cyborg kid.
Yes. He notes that his mom is in the shelter of the second floor in the central tree, and if we head to the central area and take the elevator, we can get there, and she's waiting for help. I don't think the shelter is going to be held too much longer because it's being targeted by them. And he notes that he's been doing his best to get rid of some of them, but they're very strong, and it's only a matter of time until the shelter is destroyed. So let's go. I'll teach you how to kill them on the way there, or defeat them. So they're floating through the space debris. Phil is just like bouncing off of them like he's a fucking Yu Yu Hakusho character. He's just like, shoosh, 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 shoosh. Everyone else is like, hold on, we're not really like adjusted to all of this. But it's he's just got his own little things. In the meantime, Fuko's kind of having this conversation with Nico where they're like, so what do you think these things are? Are they aliens? And Fuko's like, yeah, so unlike in the previous loop, Galaxy already exists here, so I don't really know. I'm ready for anything at this point, but... And then she kind of like pauses, and she has a bit of like a heavy expression, and Phil like feeling like seemingly teleports up to her. I know he just moves very fast, but he's immediately right there. And she's like, whoa, what's up, Phil? And he's like, you're making the same face as mom. And he says, 1 second. And he pulls out some string from his pocket, and he does the cat's cradle. And he's like, are you happy now? My mom gets happy when I do this. Are you happy now? So go ahead. Stop being sad, basically. The little scene is interrupted, though, when they show up. It's them. Them being cute little bug guys, little bug dudes. Creed is immediately like, time for me to get into action. But Phil's like, no, it won't. That won't work. And slams down like a barrier between them. And he's like, yeah, I said I'd teach you how to beat them. So as you can see, my body is basically already at its limit, and I think my mom is more likely to survive if I leave the task of saving her to you. And at that point, two of these things latch on to Phil, and they're like, hurry, we gotta open this. And Phil's trying to, Nico's trying to, bring the barrier up, but Phil's like, yeah, so the outer shell on these things can't be, pierced with bullets or anything. Their inside's the weak point, and they only expose that when they're about to feed. So that's why I'm letting them try to bite me. And Fuka's like, you can't do this. You're going to die. Why are you going so far? And Phil just says, Mom told me that she would do anything for the sake of someone she loves. Nico cracks the door open. Fuko just laments that she has been a fool here. They got wrapped up in Phil being a robot, the possibility of him being different from his previous iteration, but all the stupid things that don't matter. The person before my very eyes is risking his life to save his mother. It's Phil. She activates her, bad bullet, and just notes that fact alone is enough reason for me to save him. Shoots one of these guys in the face and just says, hey, I'm sorry about earlier. Can I borrow your string? Let's play a bunch with everybody and take these things down. So they're going to work together, try to take these guys down, Nick.
Yeah. It was nice to see Fuko, momentarily lose some resolve just because, she's in an unfamiliar position, and unfamiliar positions at this point are kind of uncomfortable for her because she's so used to just being able to figure stuff out, figure out what she's got to do right away. And they're in no man's land at this point. In this point, so that gives her some pause, and then she realizes look, I don't have time for this. I've got to protect the people that are important to me, including this small robo kid. I do like Phil in the brief amount of time that we're given to kind of get to know him in this chapter. He's definitely different from I think almost everyone in Union in terms of that kind of on the surface appearing emotionless, but clearly is not because he's a sentimental kid who loves his mom aspect. I look forward to seeing them do more and seeing what he'll get to do on a more permanent basis, because presumably he's not going to just be in a falling apart robot body for the entire rest of the manga.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. Also, these alien things kind of remind me of Starro the Conqueror from DC in the Suicide Squad.
I remember him. They were big starfish.
Yeah,
These
but they just
bugs.
kind of give me that vibe because I know, but they've got in the way that they latch onto people and stuff. So.
Oh, okay. I know they resemble something. I can't remember. Is it water bears? Is that the thing they're called now? They kind of look like what's the name of that Pokemon? Some Gen 5, maybe Gen 6. Venipede or something like that. It looks a lot like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a what do you call it? They seem like kind of like a type of crustacean, like a not a hermit crab. There's something horseshoe crab. It kind of looks like. All right, Gwen, we gotta talk about some Chainsaw Man. Double Chainsaw Man. Very briefly, Double Chainsaw Man. That the second one is gone very, very quickly. It's chapter 129. Save me, Chainsaw Man. The second Chainsaw Man apparently gave regular Chainsaw Man Denji and Asa time to escape from the falling devil. Asa manages to gain consciousness just in time to kind of see that there is a second Chainsaw Man, and then they burst out of the door back into the real world, which I thought they might have to just run around inside the abyss while trying to survive the time until they made it to sunrise. But apparently not. They're back out in the real world immediately. A bunch of the kind of swipey scorpion tail things they were attacking Denji in the previous chapter are attacking them again. Asa hits the ground And Denji's not looking so good because he got gored again. He's just been getting beat up a lot, this guy. So Asa sees that Denji is seemingly gonna die, and Yoru appears once again and says, "Come on, kill him! This is our chance! If you kill him, I'll give you your fucking body back. You'll get rid of me." And Asa hesitates, and Yoru realizes, like, you're not gonna do it. Just to be like, I just when I felt like I was understanding you, you're just doing the opposite of what I say. And Asa picks up a bit of a rock or a bit of debris and smashes it into her palm in order to cut herself. And she starts letting it drip into Denji's mouth in order to revive him.
The panel where she's like, "Ow," because we also get Yoru.
Yoru.
Ow!
And Yoru's like, "Why are you doing that? Why are you saving my moral enemy? Come on." And Asa says, "Between that time with Yuko and tonight, Chainsaw Man has saved my life twice now. And besides that, watching Chainsaw Man makes me think that if a piece of trash like him is allowed to keep living, maybe it's okay for me to live too."
That's so cute. I mean, not the perfect lesson, but it's very cute. She wants to live.
Hey, whatever it takes, you know? Yeah. One of the scorpion tail things extends out of the door, and it's going towards Asa, and she says, just as it's about to strike her, "Save me, Chainsaw Man!" And there's a burst of movement, and Denji is up and is leaping through the air with Asa in his arms, like going across the street while these scorpion tails chase after them, smashing through buildings and cars while they try to get away. And as they're running away desperately, Denji says, "Sorry, I might not be able to save you." Because, yeah, it looks like they're in trouble. There's scorpion tails that are coming from every freaking direction, burrowing through the floor wherever they appear and stuff. About this moment. So they're desperately trying to get away. Asa spots a woman on a motorcycle and is like, "Hey, Chainsaw Man, steal that motorcycle, please." And then she says, "Don't be stupid. I can't steal that, you thief. A woman's riding it." Without missing a beat, Asa just points to a different motorcycle rider and says, "Well, steal that guy's then." Next panel, kicks the guy off.
Beat it. Perfect. No notes. Absolutely brilliant to have no beat between those two moments.
And the guy is like more stunned than hurt, which is amazing considering he got kicked off of a moving motorcycle. But he just kind of, and wasn't wearing a helmet, by the way. And he says, "Ow!" And then she says, "Hey, don't blame me. Blame the chick behind me. All right, can you teach me how to ride this thing?" Immediately, a scorpion tail's gonna hit them. But Asa, with the fucking clinch moment, declares Super Chainsaw Man motorcycle. And we get a new toy for all the kids at home to bother their parents about.
"Mommy, can I get the Super Chainsaw Man motorcycle?"
Only if you get an A in your next report card, honey.
Damn.
And the frickin' motorcycle transforms, and now there's a chainsaw running through both wheels.
I love the chapter technically ends with the guy who had his bike stolen going, "That's my bike?" Question mark.
And that's the end of the chapter. As Denji and Asa have a Super Chainsaw Man motorcycle to get away on. I hope that Denji has no realization that the motorcycle is any different.
Yeah, he doesn't understand how he's driving it. He's just like, "Cool, my motorcycle. This all makes sense. I guess I'm just awesome."
Yep. Yeah, really fun chapter. Loved it. Okay. We do have a chapter of Kaiju number 8. This chapter came out like the day after our last full episode, so it counts.
It does. Nick, this is Family Feud. I'm here. I'm Steve Harvey. I'm not sure about this answer. I'm gonna go to the judges. They say it counts. All right, we get to talk about it.
It's just like in the very lower right corner. It's like, I always forget that the board goes up to 8 possible answers.
I always was tickled as a child because they never showed you the judges. So in my mind, it was always like a law judge, like a guy in a big, like billowy George Washington wig, who was just like, goes to the movies. I think is same as seeing a movie. Boom, and they hit a gavel. They had a lot of power in my mind.
Last time, Kikoru cut through Kaiju number 15 like 10 different times, including cutting her head from her body. And so we open this chapter with number 15's head flying through the air, and Kikoru being like, okay, that should be it. They should be finished. But in that moment, they're still connected by the psychic link between them. And number 15 goes, Daddy, I got my core destroyed. I can't regenerate. Daddy. And we get a flashback. A bizarrely depressing flashback. Where it's Kaiju number 15 several months ago, apparently freshly born, having the appearance of little kid Kikoru, but with like black hair and eyes. And says to Kaiju number 9, who is sitting in a throne, just being like, yep, I'm a dick. And little baby Kikoru number 15 says, do you love me, Daddy? And number 9 says, I made you to kill Kikoru Shinomiya. So if you become stronger than her, then I'll love you. And basically immediately starts like setting her up to fight against training dummies that vaguely resemble Kikoru. And whenever number 15 kills one, she's like, do you love me? If you can master this attack, then I'll love you. She masters the attack. I can go kill little Kikoru whenever you like. Do you love this again? Just neglectful, abusive dad.
It's very funny. Like we added a new crime to his list. Like, oh, he's a mean dad to his monster daughter.
Like that whose sole purpose is to kill one person. Just he didn't have to fucking make her this way, but he made her like human enough to psychologically abuse.
Yeah.
It's just so unnecessary. The others don't work this way, it seems like.
It would be great if we find out like the water one's like, Daddy. They all have different daddy issues.
One's like, he never told me you loved me. One's like, yeah, and he never let me win at Sega.
Yeah, one's like, he really put a lot of expectations for me to follow in his footsteps, which is fucked up because I'm like the big head one. I don't have legs, so I couldn't even follow in his footsteps if I tried.
He kept on demanding that I just come on through the family business, and it's like, look, I'm just a guy with blades for hands. Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, I beat him in a game of basketball, and he was not cool with that. And now it's just kind of weird between us. I think he thinks I'm trying to steal mom from her, which is weird because there's no mom. There is no mom anywhere, but he is adamant about this.
He got really mad at me when I came out to him because he said that the only identity I need is to kill the one agent that he set out for kill.
To kill a random agent from the 1st Division squad, the vice captain or something.
I don't even remember. I don't even know their name. He honestly was never very specific about that.
No one really knows who she is. Just someone has to kill her, apparently. And I'll be honest, I think that's really more of my mentality. My issue right now is like, if you're going to give me a purpose to kill somebody, can you at least let it be like a character with like a backstory and like a name? And he was like, don't worry, you're going to see a backstory. And I'm like, it's not going to be some stupid shit like she made herself look really cool because she had a crush on a captain or something. And then he just got really silent and kind of left the room. So I feel like I guessed it. And my dad's a dick.
It just so happens that they happen to be squared against the one person in the Kaiju fighting corps who is also a licensed therapist. And that's how they're defeated.
It's like, shit. I should become a boxer.
So yeah, the main thing that it comes down to is that the latest instruction, or the latest promise, I guess, that Kaiju number 15 was given was, if she can kill Kikoru, then yeah, I'm sure I can love you. This fucking asshole. And yeah, that's the kind of approach that she took with it, which is like, yeah, this way Daddy will acknowledge me. But then, as Kikoro looks down at her and is like crying because like she's like experiencing the emotions that number 15 has been through this entire time. Number 15 says, actually, like us being linked this way made me realize something. Your daddy was hard on you because he loved you. My daddy's different. I'm nothing more than a pawn to him. And she is full on bawling, crying, tears streaming down her face, which is, by the way, the only part of it that exists because she's just ahead.
Is decapitated, yeah.
And she starts to fade away like that one demon in Demon Slayer while crying. And she says, like, I'm about to die, Daddy. And despite that, as I lie here, you still refuse to look at me. And it's like, well, and she just like turns fully into just a little brain head thing and is just dead. And it sits there in silence for a second. And Kikoro says, all right, you took a lot of people's lives. I feel no affection for you, but I'll make sure to punch number 9 right in the face on your behalf.
Bam.
It's like, all right. It's a pretty good reaction to that. It's like, look, you sucked, but that is,
but it is
messed up. I will beat that guy up. That's fucked up that he did that.
You suck, but it was very uncouth that he gave you a human intelligence and like needs like a daughter would have, and then deprived you of any affection. That is kind of twisted.
So there's a brief celebration for the Kaiju Defense Corps because hey, number 15 has been defeated. Kikoru won in a way that they desperately needed, and so now they're like, all right, well, oh shit, a report from Sumida. Number 11 is still fighting. That's the water one. That the captain. I keep on forgetting his name. He's too important for me to keep on doing this. But the first division captain is fighting against number 11, and Kikoru gets on the radio to him and just says, "Hey, it's your turn now. Show me your skills, Master Moron." And the captain gets blasted through a wall by a bunch of water, but then he just gets up and he says, "All right, fine then. I'm going to show you that we're leagues apart." And he sweeps his hair back and his eyes start to glow in like a black clover like way because there's a big ass cross where his pupil is. And I guess we're going to get his fight next.
Yay. How do I phrase this? This is like a fine, cool conclusion to the number 15 fight. It kind of answers the question I had, which is like, why is this thing look exactly like Kikoru and no one seems to comment on it? The answer to why no one commented on it to this point is never really answered, but presumably they're not all like this. She was like this one anomaly because she was designed specifically to kill Kikoru, etc., whatever. Fine conclusion. Send her off. Wasn't a good person, but you kind of feel for her. And then we're going to move on to, I can't remember this character's name, Nezumi? Something like that. Don't care about this guy.
I think it's Narumi. I want to say it's Narumi.
I'm still at this point where I just don't care about his gimmick of like, yeah, my master moron and idiot disciple. I'm just like, I don't care about your relationship. I'm sorry. But hopefully it'll still be like cool and action packed and we'll get to see some fun stuff. So I'm moderately looking forward to it. Should be cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's cover mission 79 of Spy Family. It's we start off at Yor's workplace.
So many chapters still to talk about.
We can do it, Quinn. It's
Nick, I'm gonna take a quick nap. I'm gonna wake me up when Kill Blue comes around. I want to hear your rant.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to be around for that. They have to work late. Yor volunteers to like stick around with the other like secretary kind of people, and they go through that. And Yor's kind of thinking about like, oh man, I really need to like hide what I'm up to and everything. She's still really paranoid about that. They finish up, and then Yor says she's gonna go home. But the others say like, oh, let's get some dinner together. And the kind of quiet one that's got glasses says to Yor, hey, are you coming? And she's like, are you sure? And so they go to the usual place, which Yor doesn't really tend to go with them ever because she kind of has no social life, this poor woman. But they go out drinking, and Yor, of course, immediately gets drunk because she is very weak to alcohol, and she's just like she is just like talking. They're talking about their love interests basically, and yeah, they talk about stuff, and they're kind of like griping about their partners, and then Yor's like, no, Lloyd's just kind of like really nice and organized. I've got no complaints. They're like, there is no way that is true. There's got to be something about him that you find annoying. There is no way that he is that perfect. It's actually kind of weird if that's the case. And so Yor goes to the conclusion of like, wait, maybe it's like dating and marriage turns every person into assassins. Is what's strange about me just that I was the killer before I got married? What should I do? All right, I need to act normal, like any other person who has become a killer after they got married. And they're like, oh yeah, sometimes I'm a killer right too. Oh yeah? Like when? I like my omelet a little bit sweet, and he's worried about my sugar, so he won't make them that way. Like, that's it? Okay, I mean, it's kind of weird that you want to kill him over that, Yor. So, they're like, no, I hate stuff. And then she's like, all right, I've got to convince them. That I actually do have gripes against Lloyd. So she takes another drink and then has an entire sequence where she imagines going to the gardener to get a job, then going to kill Lloyd and destroying him, and then imagines Anya getting really upset about it, and then when she comes to, she's just standing in the doorway because none of that actually happened. It's just a fantasy sequence. A nice touch is that even during this fantasy sequence, she's slurring as if she's drunk because she is very drunk during it. She oh god, my fucking reader is all messed up, so I don't know where the next page is. She ends up getting home.
You know what? I guess we should go to K-Manga, Nick. I mean, if this is what the reader's going to be like, this is untenable.
Yeah, I guess so. Is it going to load this time? Yeah, okay, so she goes home, and when she sees Lloyd, she's like drunk and, flustered and just thinks about, all the stuff that they've talked about romance-wise, and he just kind of looks at her like, what's going on? And she just kind of like loses it, and because they had also talked about like welcome home kisses and stuff, and she gets embarrassed over that because physical affection is very embarrassing to her. She falls over when she imagines that. Lloyd catches her and she's like, oh my god, is he gonna kiss me? And she like backflips herself and basically just like somersault back bumps in order to get away from it. And Anya's annoyed because her parents are being weird.
Yeah,
that's about it.
So noisy when they kissy kiss.
Yeah. I do like Yor, and I like Yor getting more chapters, but I feel like this is kind of like covered ground for the most part. So, and then, if you're gonna like show more of Yor's nights out, I do want her to just like spend more time with Damien's mom, who is very intriguing.
Like the premise of it is fine. Of like Yor goes to hang out with her workmates because she's opening up a little bit. It just happens to be the entire conversation then is about their respective relationships, which is like, I wish they could like talk more, but I it's still fine. It's funny.
Yeah, it still feels like we barely know the people that she works with outside of they've got boyfriends and husbands, and that's kind of it. There's one of them that I know Yor spent a little more time with. Like there's the one that especially finds her annoying, but also taught her to cook. Like, well, cook one meal. So anyway, hey, it's Akane-banashi time.
Whoa, Rakugo time?
Yeah, let's Rakugo. Story 60, only one side. It's a signing event for Hikaru
This
Kuragi.
is about a triangle that only has one side, Nick.
What?
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
No. I don't, and something that confuses me that much, I am absolutely not going to ingest.
Think about it, Nick. Only one side.
No.
It's a triangle. Only one side.
What is this Terrence Howard math you're trying to get me to go on?
Nick, I'm just saying it's a triangle. It just happens to only have one side. What if I took a triangle and I opened it up and then made it one long line? That'd be a triangle with one side.
It would still have two sides.
No, it would have one side, Nick. I've opened it up. I don't understand what's so confusing about this. Maybe I should draw you a graph. I don't really have anything here.
Oh my god. Hikaru Karagi is doing a signing event, shaking hands with fans and stuff. And who should show up but, oh my god, it's fucking, what's his name? I've completely forgotten his name. It's Tall Boy from the Karaku Cup.
Do they say it like immediately? Oh, they don't. What bitches?
Nope.
It's something, right? Like Haruma or something, or
So he shows up and has literally paid 3,000 yen, which is like $30, to get a book and just to talk to her, so he can essentially mock her and be like, "Oh, you sure must be nice being a star and stuff." And Hikaru immediately kind of turns it on him and just says like, "Oh wow, you seem kind of, yeah, you're not, squealing as much as last time. You seem a lot more embarrassed." And he's like, "Shut up, don't talk about when I wasn't cool." And she's like, yeah, it's really embarrassing when you remember how cringe you were when you were younger, huh? But then she says, yeah, well, and that's why he became a Rakugoka, right? And it surprises him, and he says like, huh, yeah, I'm surprised that you actually remember me. She didn't. She actually did. I think she was referencing specific events.
yeah.
But she also says to him, I'm surprised that you didn't join the Arakawa school. And he says, well, yeah, but if we were in the same school, we would essentially be on the same side. And I'd rather have her as my opponent. And the same goes for you. And he also says, man, I refuse to accept that we tied, because they tied for second place in that competition.
Karashi is what Akane calls him later on.
Right. So he says, like, I do admit that it was a stupid life decision. So it's relief to see someone else just as stupid.
Yeah, it's over him receiving rescindments of job applications. So he has absolutely put all of his marbles into this particular basket at this point.
Was apparently getting an angry call from his dad too over not getting a more proper job. So he goes off after they kind of had this sort of bonding moment of like, oh heck, we both actually are taking this a lot more seriously now. But as he leaves, Hikari says, "Nason, I started under my master last summer, and you're a newer student, so you should call me Nason." It's a little power play.
She's
but
like, all right, bitch.
Yeah, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. But he seems to find it. He has a little chuckle over it. Yeah. So like, all right.
We all have our little giggles.
I mean, I really like this interaction between the two of them. I feel like it, fleshes both of them out a lot to have them, have an interaction that isn't focused on Akane as my rival, basically. We cut over to Akane, who has returned to the bar that she was working at part-time previously, in order to learn about, catering to her audience. And as she's, doing so, the workers there are commenting on like, oh, she's actually like really different from when she worked here last year. So all that training she must have been through must have really put her through the ringer. And of course, we get a little peek back of like, oh hey, remember when Akane was running around serving tea to the Rakugo masters and stuff? So apparently that's good for running around people who are not nearly as demanding, serving them drinks.
Yeah.
And she only wanted a few days of shifts, but they don't really know why she asked to work there at all. And we immediately see inside Akane's mind, as while she's working, she's carefully observing the people who are drinking around her, because she's like, look, I need to play a drunk for changing time. And I can't drink alcohol. Or if her mom tried to help by just being like, come on.
Just a couple beers.
She's like, no.
It's very cute.
But she got some advice from Maikeru, which was sometimes it's the Rakugoka who don't drink who are the best at portraying drunks, which is because if they can't handle their booze, so they have to have the presence of mind to watch those who get drunk, and they learn the mannerisms that they have, and that lets them play them more convincingly. Makes sense. And as she's running around continuing to work, she says, like, I feel like I can manage acting drunk. The problem is, how do I emulate the married couple? Maikeru Ani-san asked me, what kind of Rakugoka are you? And he started training right after that, and then the question got dropped. And the truth is, I don't know the answer to that question. And the key to figuring that out lies in my origins. It's not just about deepening my own art, it's about learning who I am through my dad's art. But how do I figure that out? And as she's running around, because she's got to go and get some green tea from the store, she runs into Karashi on the street. And she's immediately like, hey, what you doing? And Karashi's like, and he hides something behind his back. And Akane's like, what you got? What you got there? What you hiding? What you hiding? What you hiding? And it's the booklets that he bought in order to go and talk to Hikaru. And she's like, are you a fan? Are you in love with her? Shut up!
No, I don't want it.
I don't want it. I just want to go talk to her, and they shoved it in my hands. I'm sure that was shut up. But she's like, oh, okay, well, can I see it? And so she takes it and starts looking through it, and there's like all these like different kind of modeling shots that Hikaru has done. Of like, oh, office girl Hikaru. Casual leaning over a ledge, Hikaru.
These are all iconic tropes. Office lady casually leaning over a fence of some kind.
Yeah. But Akane is like, I've only really been familiar with Hikaru when she's wearing a kimono, which makes sense. That's the only way she's been dressed the 2 times she's seen her. So.
If you flip it over, you get 2 more iconic tropes of like cat girl, and then of course Little Nas X. She just wears one of the Little Nas X Met Gala costumes. Everyone has that. It's just a part of your wardrobe. It's like a little black dress.
Yeah. And then it's like, like Hikaru at the beach, something classy. And then it's like Hikaru the Power Ranger.
Yep. Sentai. There's always a Sentai one. Boxer. Really just firefighter, but not sexy. Full gear. Full gear, ashes on the face. They've been through some shit today.
Lifting up an axe to chop a door down.
Yeah. She's a worker, okay? You have to see every side of her. Nick, this whole chapter is about not one side, so you got to see every side of this person.
Beret art student Hikaru, and then emerging from the belly of a dragon that she has clawed her way out of from the inside Hikaru.
Yeah, not to be confused with Ace Ventura crawling out of the butthole of the rhinoceros from Ace Ventura to Hikaru. These are all different Hikarus. She's a very talented actress.
Anyway, the realization she gets from this is like, oh, I only have ever seen this one side of Hikaru, and I'm trying to get close to my dad, and I realize I only really know one side of him, too. So maybe if I learn more about my dad, that might be the key to mastering his art. And this is potentially very exciting because maybe we'll actually get to fucking see Akane interact with her dad.
It's only been a year since we've last seen him, so I'm super excited. Look, Nick, this is a great chapter, but I did draw a diagram. If we can go back to the triangle on one side. So as you'll see right up here, this is a normal triangle. But now as a whole, it's slowly starting to open up until thus, triangle of one side. I have explained it for you now. And of course, if you come at me with if it only has a straight line right now, it is no longer a triangle. Of course, the appropriate response is Ship of Theseus, Nick. So, check and mate.
That's a very different version of the Ship of Theseus. As the ship broke down, we just started to slowly just like rip it open.
Nick, if the Ship of Theseus broke down and you just wrenched it open into one long line, is it not still the Ship of Theseus?
Vision looking at the other Vision being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No, hold on, let me show you. It just starts ripping the other Vision into one long line. See, it's like, see, you're still White Vision at this point.
Okay, all right, so...
Blue box.
Blue box. Chapter 99. It's now New Year's time. And so freaking oh god, Taiki is all upset because he didn't get to talk to Chinatsu before she went off in order to spend time with her family. And like he's just zoning out while he's hanging out with his family while they play, New Year's games. And he's like, it makes me think that Christmas Eve was a dream, but it's not a dream, and I haven't been able to talk to her. Maybe I can just text her Happy New Year. And then, in the group chat that his family shares, his mom goes, Chinatsu, Happy New Year! He's like, no!
You bitch! Why does everyone do this to me?
Chinatsu says it's snowing where they are, and so she's shoveling snow right now. And Taiki just looks at it and goes, oh, even over long distance, she just really makes me feel happy. Aww. Then he gets a message from Nishida that says, we're going on our first shrine visit of the year. It's like, God, just get some other friends, Nishida, please.
For the love of God, bud.
You're codependent. The next day, Taiki goes to meet up with the badminton club. Ayame is there, as is Hina, as is Karen. Yes. And it's not the entire badminton team. It's just Kyo.
It's the ones that are named, essentially.
The ones that are named, yeah. Taiki says, like, oh, hi Karen, it's been a while. And she looks at him and says, like, have you gotten taller? And Haru's like, well, yes. And she's like, you're around him all the time. Of course you can't tell. But, yeah, you kind of look more like a man, Taiki. He's like, oh, thank you. Haru gives him this, like, sidelong look. Like, what do you think that was about? It's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm not interested in her. They start to go to the shrine to pay respects, but Ayame stops by a vending machine, like, oh, I want to get a drink. And Kyo just comes up and is like, hey, I'm going to treat you like those cookies that you gave me at Christmas. They made my little siblings happy, so I'm going to return the favor. And she's got kind of a surprised look on her face, like, oh. And then Hina and her friend come up and are like, oh, you're giving out free drinks! So they end up with free drinks, too. They start going through a crowd to get to the shrine. Taiki is like, I don't really know what to pray for, so he just kind of goes like, health, love, sports, academics. Please make this a year I can push toward my goals. And then they go to get fortunes. Immediately, Nishida ends up with misfortune, which means not so good stuff. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go buy another one. And I'm going to keep on buying them until I get a super fortunate one. Taiki gets an even worse fortune, which is great misfortune, which, if you're superstitious, means a lot. And he also runs after Nishida so that they can just keep on buying stuff until they get a super fortunate one. It's nice to know that if whatever force runs the universe looks down on you and says, this is your fortune, you can be like, but what if I spend another $1? And immediately it overwrites what the universe has just told you with another seemingly randomly generated fortune. Whatever makes you feel better, I guess. So yeah, they go a few more times until Taiki does get the super fortunate one. And it says very specifically in terms of advice regarding romance, don't hesitate. So that gives him something to think about. Hina gets a nice little fortune as well. Ayame gets one where she doesn't even care about the general quality of it. She's just like, look, all I care about is what it says about my romantic prospects. And she looks down and it says, your romance will be a thorny path. So she gets a new one too. And they just kind of keep on going, I guess, until they're all happy with their fortunes. Then she is like, let's go get some stuff from the food stalls. But as they're walking, something gives Hina pause, and Kyo notices. And he says, like, oh, it looks like you're kind of limping a little. And he is like, yeah, someone kind of like bumped my ankle while we were in the crowd together, so I think it might be scraped up. And so Kyo says, okay, well, let's go over there, and I'll like bandage up your foot. And Hina says, like, oh, but everyone's... But they catch Ayame's attention, and they say to her, hey, tell the gang we'll meet back up with them later. And Ayame says, sure, you got it. The Taiki is separated from the crowd, and so he starts like exchanging like texts. Karen pulls up Chinatsu on like a FaceTime thing, and they start talking about stuff. And Karen says like, hey, yeah, I just want to be able to look at your face while I wish you a happy new year. We're doing a shrine visit, check it out. And she also says specifically, if you're looking for Taiki, he kind of disappeared a little while ago. And that kind of bums Karen out a little bit because she's like, I kind of wanted them to see each other because she ships that. Then as they're talking about stuff, Chinatsu suddenly gets a text alert. And Karen says like, oh, yeah, if you're busy, I can call you back. And Chinatsu has just paused and Karen realizes it. And the reason why Chinatsu has paused and she's kind of a little bit flushed is that Taiki has texted her specifically saying, hey, can you make some time for me when you get back? I'd like to talk to you about something. So love seems to be going on in a few different directions in this chapter. I think this is the most overt sign that Ayame is starting to get a bit of a thing for Kyo, because it seems like she's getting a bit jealous of his closeness with Hina. And at the very least, it seems like Karen kind of realizes that there is definitely something going on between Chinatsu and Taiki.
Yeah, everyone can, because he's fucking super obvious about it.
Yeah, every time he leaves the room, he just runs off saying, I do not have a crush on Chinatsu!
Ah! And he screams, yeah. It's cute. I like it. Chapter 100, maybe something big will happen. Maybe it won't.
Hey.
Whatever. It doesn't always have to be that way, but
It doesn't always have to be.
Nick, let's talk about Cipher Academy, which was very big, very important. Had a lot of developments, and of course, has a great chapter title of Chapter 22. Always approach a code as if it's your first.
Yeah, it's a very weird twist on that, that famous expression.
Always, Nick. It's like we're in that same pantheon of things like the one-sided triangle and the ship of Theseus.
Stop it. I will not let you gaslight this into being.
It's like an iconic thing, Nick. Hold on, I'm going to go into Wikipedia right now.
Stop it, Quentin.
I'm going to create the one-sided triangle. They can't stop me.
So we open up this chapter with Iroha doing some sweet breakdancing moves just outside the school by himself. And he is approached by the other three finalists for the class leading private exam. And there's a fourth wall breaky thing where an enemy, because each of them have like, a big thing that says their name and kind of a brief like bit about them. So like Toshusai's is a noble villainess with a conscience. And then there's anonymity requested, who no longer has her glasses weapon. So it's just her face, and she's being all playful and stuff. And hers now says Class 1A's only orthodox beauty, but she is still known as anonymity requested.
Yes.
So like, all right.
Maybe we'll never know her name. I do like that.
And she
has grabbed her box. Yeah, like she has grabbed onto it.
And so we do get confirmation that Iroha has won, but also that he submitted a notice of withdrawal from the academy, which Toshusai has with her. And says, is it true you're planning on dropping out? Well, by the way, the three of them are striking the most natural possible poses for this. And Iroha says, like, look, I mean, considering the way that I won, I really don't feel like I beat you. And they all kind of just, take a knee and sit with him. And Toshusai says, I guess that the way you won wasn't exactly void of suspicion, but anonymity request says, like, I kind of feel like I want to drop out after I lost to you, but if you're actually leaving, that's kind of a relief. But tell me one thing before you go. You said that you read all your classmates' expressions at the same time while we were playing. How the hell is that possible? And Yosamura says, like, I'm not saying you cheated, but that does seem like insane, even for us. It feels like it'd be easier to decode the 53 cards. And Iroha says, yeah, I mentioned this to Enchan already, and also to Yugata-san, although she pulled it out of me through torture, which, you know, I feel like he's referring to Yugata, so probably she was like, do you want to play a game where if I win, you have to tell me? And he was like, no! And then just told her, so. But he says... Okay, he says, see, I was in the cheerleading club in middle school, and we used to go on trips overseas. And once after a tournament, we visited a refugee camp. And Toshisa is like, wait, what? And he says, yeah, it's the cheerleading club's job to cheer people on, and it's a more meaningful way to spend our time than shopping and sightseeing, according to our faculty advisor, who was influenced by a political cartoon. So that's the policy we went with.
There's so many little details just being dropped.
Just feels like, Iroha, timeout. What? So your faculty advisor saw a political cartoon and decided you guys needed to go and cheer up some refugees? And Iroha says, like, yeah, so the war there had been over for a while, but it was still dangerous. So only boys were allowed to go. And since they all ended up getting brutally murdered by thieves, I think that was the right choice. Pause. But I was the only one they didn't kill because I'm a girl. And at this moment, I was like, wait, has this been a double fake out this entire time? And Iroha is actually a girl that the heirs just assumed was a guy? But that's not the case. It is, in fact, a triple subversion where it's going back to the original subversion where Iroha kind of was presumed to be a girl just at first glance, and that was how he was treated by the thieves who murdered everyone. And yeah, because he was mistaken for being a girl because of his appearance, presumably he was spared being murdered horribly.
Yeah, they dance around it quite a lot, but it does sound like it was like not a good, like, it doesn't sound like it was a much better scenario that he endured as well, because it was like, I just kind of had to keep dancing until someone saved me.
Yep. And he says, and that's why I'm good at reading people's expressions, because, you know, I couldn't even communicate with the people who, you know, murdered all of my classmates. So reading your guys' expressions was elementary and a vital part of life. So not only is he good at it, if he weren't good at it, he would have been long dead. So, ha! And Toshisai realized, like, that's also why you were empathizing with the Cipher soldier in the video clip that you watched. And he's like, yeah, and also that empathy of mine is why I'm dropping out of the academy. I wasn't able to keep my promise with Kagoe, so I'll just have to do something for her without that hidden fortune. Maybe I'll just call upon that political cartoonist who told me I'd be safe here and tricked me into enrolling. Iroha said previously that his dad was the one who got him enrolled here. Or forced him to be here. So presumably said political cartoonist is his dad, who he previously said was a caricature artist, which makes sense. Caricature artists and political cartoons run into each other a lot. So there's a lot there that we're just not getting into right now because he keeps just alluding to his relationship with his father, which doesn't seem great. So Yasamura says, don't you want to end all wars, though? You said that. And he says, like, you know, when I read my classmates' expressions during the poker game, it just confirmed to me why you guys are all here. In the end, before the vote, the game was everything. I came here without knowing anything about the academy. So forget being your leading private. I don't deserve to be at this school. I shouldn't be here. And he says it in his big, like, I'm the confident, calm hero. I've made my decision way. And Toshisai rips up his resignation letter and is like, no.
It was never going to be accepted anyway.
No, notice withdrawal is invalid. And they say, like, look, it seems like you don't get it, so let me explain. No document of this academy is considered official unless written in code. And the three of them present codes to him to solve, and they make these big, like, one hand over the heart, one hand extending forward gestures towards him. And they say, if you think the votes were everything, Iroha-kun, then solve these as a parting gift and decode who we voted for. And Iroha's like, all right, fine, then I will. And of course, they all say Iroha, just in different ways, after he does his ice cold reading. Not LASIK version, but it is still LASIK version.
I think it's still the LASIK because there's no glasses anymore.
No glasses.
It would be really funny if he was like, it's not for anything. I'm going to use the glasses real quick.
So he starts to get teared up when he realizes that all three of them are like, yeah, we believe in you and we voted for you. And Yosemura and the others say, like, hey, it's true, we all have our own dreams, and some of them we can't reveal to anyone. And that's why we want you to be the leading cheerleader who can pick up on everything we leak to you. Which is, this code talk is still very weird, but it's kind of sweet. So Iroha accepts the position of leading private. He takes a position, at the head of the class to kind of like hold assembly over everyone, and says, like, look, I'm the weakest member of this class.
He opens this thing. I suck. Everyone knows I suck.
I know.
I'm a coward. This is probably a bad decision. I really, really suck.
I'm a bad leader.
I'm unreliable. No one likes me. I kind of smell. Anyways, thanks for picking me.
Yep. And he's like, I'm putting myself in your care as much as I'm asking you to put yourself in mine. Then we cut away to Kagoe, who is having some tea with some other people. It's the leading privates for all the other classes of the first year. And they've all got weird gimmicks too. And there's a weird moment where Kagoe says, like, hey, Class 1A's private is a boy named Iroha Hozaka. Get along with everyone, treasure each other's lives, and crack all the codes you can. And then they're like, what sort of code is that? I don't get what you mean by everyone. I don't get what you mean by get along. I don't get what you mean by lives. And it's like, all right. And one of them just says, I don't get what you mean by boy.
That could be
moving on.
That could be really good or really bad, depending on what the explanation is. I do find it very funny that it's like, oh, there's one class where there's like a good person in charge, and then it's like, here's what happens to the other classes where they're much more like cynical people at charge, and they're all just like, I don't understand what get along means. Is some kind of code? What do you mean by lives? Treasuring lives? It's doesn't make sense.
There is a person here named Invalides Yonaki Uiguisu, which oh boy. Yeah, so presumably we're going to get into some interclass conflict in the next stretch of Cipher Academy. I do know that a lot of people kind of get the feeling that, like, we're probably not going to end Cipher Academy in this run of new manga coming in, but it's probably not going to be much longer for Jump, it feels like.
That's what
but
you
never know.
You never know.
Never know.
Mashle could literally end in a month. We do not know. So there is a chance it survives. We don't know yet.
But we've got some new manga to talk about now, Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it. Do Retry, Chapter 1.
Take a quick nap during this one, Nick.
Okay. It's about Boxing Kid in post-World War II Japan.
Now, Nick, you have me sold. Less the other part. But boxing, I am in. I can't wait to find out who the manga is of this new exciting boxing manga.
It's Junkiro Arazaka.
Nick, why does that name sound familiar to me and also fill me with a sense of dread?
That's the guy who did Bone Collection.
Bone Collection is ready.
And I have to say, it's a lot better than Bone Collection so far.
There was nowhere to go but up, to be fair.
But up. I mean, like, just looking at the art alone, like, if you squint, you can go like, okay, this does look like it could have been done by the guy who did Bone Collection. But everyone looks more human, honestly. Yeah, there's a kid who lives in the late World War II Japan. His dad has gone off to war, and he tries to fight off bullies and stuff like that. but he's just, not all that strong. His name is Aozora, and his dad told him, like, hey, no matter what, keep your heart strong. But he's just not strong very physically. Instead, all of his strength kind of went to his little sister, who puts him in the surfboard stretch when she's upset with him for getting into fights and getting stuff stolen from him. Akari tells him, like, hey, look, you don't need to be a super strong guy. You just be yourself and rely on me when things get tough. She literally goes and beats up the bullies and takes back the sugar they stole from him. But while he's thinking about, like, no matter how weak I am, I'll be like my dad, who was a boxer, and no matter how much he got beat up, he would always stand up, and I'll use my strong heart to overcome all of that. Oh God, a bombing run. It's World War II. Lots of this happened. The village is destroyed. Their mom is killed. Yay! They're orphaned and are war orphans now. Ah! It's a boxing manga, quit!
They haven't done a lot of boxing yet, Nick.
Things immediately just get worse and worse. There are gangs roaming the street, beating people up and just stealing their food. So as people, even though there's very little food to go around, they've got no money because, their freaking parents are A, gone, and B, dead. As on top of that, his sister has started to get sick, and when they go to see the doctor just says, like, it's just malnutrition, and they're like, that's not it. She's got chest pains every day, and the guy says, like, look, just get going. And one of them comes up and he says, like, I've got some money, and the doctor's like, okay, I'll see you. And Ayama realizes, like, what you mean, unless I've got cash, you're not going to give her a thorough checkup? And he says, like, yeah, look, do you expect him to care about every single death that comes across my way? There's so many people here, and he's just one doctor. Still very cold-hearted. So in desperation, Ayama goes through, like, the rubble of their house and tries and manages to dig up this, like, valuable kimono that they were essentially going to give Akame to wear for her wedding. And it's like, okay, maybe if I sell this off, then we'll be able to get a proper checkup with that doctor. The gang comes by and beats him up and takes it away from him. And so now they've got literally nothing. But he picks himself back up. He goes to see his sister, and she has fully collapsed, is barely breathing. It turns out she's got tuberculosis. She's starting to cough up blood. It's very, very, very bad. But even in this moment, she tells him, like, look, you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to get yourself beaten up over me. If you're just going to keep on getting hurt, if you keep on picking yourself back up and going into trouble, you're just going to keep on losing things. Please, it's better if I just keep lying here. And Aoyama stomps his foot, gets back up and says, like, no, you can't give up on living. I know that this world is full of hardships, but you've got to keep going. When things are at their hardest, you've got to give it another shot, muster up a grin, and try to stand back up. So don't worry, your big brother's going to make it all work out. He turns on his foot, dashes off to go and get his shit back from that gang, even though he's just a kid and they are like 5 adults. Gets into a fight with their leader, and keeps on getting the shit beaten out of him again and again, but keeps on getting up until the guys are just like getting kind of freaked out that this kid won't stay down. And he remembers his dad, who was the same, not the strongest fighter, but always was the one who kept on getting back up and would eventually win, just because he had this indomitable spirit. And Ayama's got that same indomitable spirit. And he's like, I'm just going to keep on being back on my feet. And it gets to a point where the gang leader is just intimidated by this kid who refuses to go down. And he charges in, clocks the guy directly across the jaw. He's got a very, very prominent target because his jaw juts down, and knocks the dude fully out. The other gang members pull fucking guns. And then
you can't use a gun in a boxing match, Nick.
I don't know. In one of those punch outs, you might be able to.
And give it time. Rocky 7, maybe.
I can't swing my fist so good anymore, so
I'm just gonna shoot you.
Hold on, I can't pull the trigger with my gloves on. Hold on.
You know, fuck it. I'm just gonna throw a grenade at you. Dude, I swallowed the pot I was supposed to throw. Boom.
That's what happens when you hit grenades. You gotta just say boom. That's all that happens to you.
It's like a Looney Tune cartoon, you know, the little Rogue Runner. He's so fast. So I don't know why the coyote tries to eat it. He spends so much money on all of the Acme stuff. He could just buy dinner. Like, it delivers it out into the middle of the desert. I yell at my TV sometimes. I'm like, stop spending money. Just buy a steak. You wouldn't be hungry no more. But he doesn't listen. And then I get upset because I think it's the same one with the sheepdog. And, you know, Adrian was like, those are two different characters in the Looney Tunes universe. I've never punched a woman before, but I was like, oh, you tell me that's the same? There's two coyotes? And she's like, well, one's not a coyote, but I don't take that and sit it down. With the nose color? Fuck you.
I didn't know that this is the place we were going to end up at. All right. Anyway, that transitions us seamlessly into this eye patch woman who has shown up and fired a gun in the air to break up the fighting. Her name is Yuka, and apparently she's got a reputation because the other gang members are like, oh shit. And she says, whenever I take my eyes off you, you guys just get up to no good. I guess I didn't train you well enough. That aside, that was a good right hook, kid. You may not have, you're pretty soft, but you aimed right for that guy's weak spot. It seems like you've got a lot of boxing experience. And Ayamo tries to brush her off, runs into her men, and she says, hey, let's take a ride. And they get into a fancy 40s car, and they drive off. And he starts going like, look, if you're going to kill me, at least let me get my sister into the hospital. And she just kind of like presses a finger into his cheek and says, what do you think is the most important thing when it comes to boxing? And he's just like, and they stop the car, lead him into an underground room, and there is a big underground fighting ring where there is a boxing ring set up, and a bunch of guys are beating the shit out of each other. And she says, fighters put their hands behind leather gloves and they clash fists with one another in the simplest, purest sport around, and its simplicity brings great depth. Boxing can get you fired up. And Sayama was like, yeah, so what? And she says, you're suited for boxing. You have a strong heart that refuses to stay down. And in boxing, that's worth its weight in gold. And she gives him several hundred yen. And she says, that kimono that got swiped from you would not have covered the hospital expenses. Come see me again if that's not enough for you. See you. So he goes, grabs his sister, and starts dashing off to get her some medical care. And while doing so, Ayama thinks to himself, for some reason, ever so slightly, I started to feel courage swell up, and I felt my heart begin to stir. Oh. And also, we see that Yuka has the same kind of charm that we've seen Ayama with throughout a lot of the chapters as well.
The little promise thing from his dad.
Mm-hmm. So, that is chapter 1 of Do Retry. It's an interesting take on a sports story in terms of setting. We'll see, I guess, where it goes. I feel like we didn't really get a whole lot out of the first chapter beyond just like, oh, that's a nice little twist on the premise.
A lot of people really, really like this chapter. I know it was discussed very positively in our Discord, and I saw a lot of that same reaction on Twitter as well. I'm not trying to be like contrary or anything. I felt weird when I saw that because I was like, I really didn't get anything from this chapter. It's fine. The lead is a little too just like first draft shonen protagonist for me. And we didn't see enough of the boxing to know if it's going to be any good or not. So I'm currently at a point where I'm waiting to see this develop a little more before I really put any direction one way or the other.
Yeah, I can see kind of where you're coming from. When the fight was happening, I was getting the impression that like, oh, maybe if he's just like getting the shit beaten out of him how much he believes in this strong heart stuff, maybe the twist is going to be that he needs more than that. And that kind of is what happens, where he just happens to hit the weak point as opposed to just like, oh, he just keeps on getting back up. It's like, yeah, you need to be able to also knock the other guy out. But I imagine that identity will develop a bit more as we move forward.
Yes.
Speaking of moving forward, we're going to move forward and leave something behind now.
Hey, what? How do you know?
Kill Blue, page 3. Norin Mitsuoka. Last time, Ogami learned that Norin, his classmate, may have some sort of connection to the insect that turned him into a kid, or at least her dad might have some sort of connection to it. And we get, like a little bit of a flashback in between him kind of like observing her in their class and stuff. It seems like she is a model student. She, is really good in sports. She's good in school. And we get one thing in particular, which is that a lot of the guys are clearly drawn to her and are staring at her, and she doesn't appreciate that. There's a little bit of backstory in terms of what's going on with Mitsuoka and Mitsuoka's participation in creating the insect stuff. Ogami is still like hanging out by himself in the corner, not making friends. And Ogami defends himself when his partner says like, "Hey, you're still just being a loner." He says like, "I'm 2 generations older than these kids. If I were fitting in seamlessly, that would be weird." There's something I always say, Quinn. Being a hitman means you never have to blend into audiences in order to get your target. You just always like stand out like a sore thumb the entire time.
Yep,
because you're a killer.
You're doing weird things and you're standing out. Yep. It's worth noting he has given details so far that seems to indicate he's not the best hitman. Like she's fucked up jobs before and things like that. So
feels like we need more of a focus on that. So he's like, "Look, this isn't the place for me. Even though I do like doing the book learning stuff, I gotta get to normal." So his partner recommends like, then you gotta do what Ms. Area suggested. And just to, like, approach her so you can like figure out some stuff, get a lead. So Ogami just goes up to Mitsuoka in class while there's a break and says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" And she immediately just stares at him, cold-eyed, says, "Ugh, creep alert. If this isn't an official school matter, go away." So he's like, "All right." So Ogami walks out into the hall with his tutor buddy and collapses to his knees because he got put down so hard. And he's like, "Oh, for a middle-aged man, hearing that come out of a young girl's mouth is the worst thing. Creep, being called a creep." It's like, yeah, that's the worst thing that a middle-aged man can experience. So, yeah,
especially when you, in particularly, value what teenage girls say. It's a thing.
Yeah, that's what a hitman would do. Value the opinions of middle-aged of young girls. So
that elementary school student said I was chuggy. I'm gonna
go
home.
And that's why I missed the target.
When did she call you chuggy?
48 hours ago.
I had to look up what it meant on Urban Dictionary.
But then when I did, I was so hurt.
It took me a day to find Urban Dictionary.
You just type it in. Like, I
didn't know how to spell it, so I just cried in front of my computer for a couple hours.
I never learned to read. So that's happening. Ogami has literally like thrown himself on the ground in despair. And the 2 girls that he helped out in the first chapter pass by and are like, "Oh, you were trying to like talk to Norin?" Yeah, she kind of hates men, like, a lot. Did you just, like, never notice that? So they leave them behind. Ogami kind of, like, they go over, like, okay, she's, like, this ideal student. She comes from a rich family. She's, like, tall and beautiful. And some of the other kids, the older kids, would hit on her. But she would turn them all down really hard. And she honestly doesn't really fit in with the other girls, too. She's not a bad person. She just doesn't, fit in. So Ogami's walking home, trying to figure out what to do. He passes by a ramen place, and he's like, "I'm going to have some ramen." And his partner's like, "No, it's garlic. It'll make you smell bad." And who should be working there but Norin, who is, So she welcomes him in, but then she recognizes who it is and is like, "Yeah, here's your water. What do you want?" So he orders ramen with egg, and he's like, "All right, this is awkward, but I might as well eat." And he's like, "Oh, it's so good! It's incredible!" And then Norin's like, "Hey, sir, when you're done, can I talk to you outside?" And so they meet up outside, and after I guess Noren's also like finished her shift, and she says, "Why are you here?" I live nearby. There's stopped on the way here, and so he's like, "You need to just keep this a secret from the school. I'm not allowed to have a job. The ramen shop belongs to my uncle, and he doesn't actually even pay me. I'm just doing this to like help him out." And Ogami's like, "Why are you doing it though? Because I heard your family was rich." And she said, "Yeah, we are like really rich. I've kind of been blessed in a lot of ways. I know that, like, on top of being rich, I've got, I know that I'm considered like beautiful and stuff, but my parents will sometimes introduce me to men who they think will be good marriage prospects, even when I was in elementary school. And they always looked at me weird. They treated me like an adult, even though I was in elementary school. And we're talking like marriage prospects. One of these guys has a beard. Like, this is creepy." And she says it's creepy. And then she says, like, and then when I started middle school, all the boys my age started to look at me the exact same way. And it's just because of how I look. And that's why I want to run a ramen restaurant. Who is coming in? Who is this? You want to run a ramen restaurant?
Nick,
Austin?
I run a ramen restaurant.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Yes.
good to know.
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What do you think we do?
Lovable.
So she's like, "Look, I just want to run a ramen restaurant. I don't want to just marry into some guy's family. That's stupid. I want to make my own life by inheriting my family member's ramen restaurant." So, and she specifically says that. I'm not exaggerating. She's like, "Yeah, my dad's disgusted about high society. That's why he started the restaurant, with all the money he didn't have." So, she just wants to like make ramen and stuff and serve it to, I don't know, guys who won't comment on her appearance, I guess. So, Ogami's like, "You know what? You should do what you want to do. Being a kid doesn't mean that you have to live the life your parents have envisioned for you. Also, the ramen was really good." And she's like, "Oh yeah, we're really proud of our soup stock and stuff." She gets really excited and happy about it. But then they just, like, "Hey, things have gotten a little bit better between them." They part ways, and she says like, "Oh, don't act like we're friends tomorrow. Don't try to speak to me." And Ogami says, "Misandry mode reactivated." And then, like 2 steps later, she gets pulled into a car and kidnapped.
This is almost a comedic beat for me because it's like the conversation ends and then cut over to It's very amusing.
Yep. So that happens, and Ogami like collapses to his knees and is like, "Sheesh, what the hell is that?" So his partner's like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "Ramen is the most delicious thing in the world, and I've got a tracker bullet in my bag." So he like dashes up a freaking telephone cable tower thing and fires a tracker bullet, and says that he's just using experience and intuition in order to calculate this shot without math. So he fires it. It hits the trunk.
He's using the one-sided triangle technique.
Yes.
You create a triangle, and then you unfold it, and you're like, math completed. Ship Theseus, and then you fire.
So yeah, he starts tracking the car and goes off in order to rescue her. So let me tell you about this chapter. Look, I've made no secret of the fact that I have gotten really nothing out of Kill Blue so far. This chapter actually just annoyed me and pissed me off. It feels like Tadatoshi Fujimaki has heard of this thing called misogyny, and then when he called upon himself to try and empathize with a person who has suffered from it, did not understand what they were actually upset about. The way that things play out in this, like, look, this is a girl who has already realized that girls are treated differently. Women are already treated differently from men. In fact, are often treated as like a commodity more than an actual person in the world that they live in. Has been treated that way since she was a little kid. And when she expresses distrust to guys who, in her experience, all look at her as if she is an object to be owned, gets constantly accused of hating men, and the only mention of gender-based bias in this chapter that is direct is Ogami, after hearing her backstory explained to him, and then being told, like, by the way, we're not friends still, calls her a misinterest. Like, it feels as if at this point, Fujimaki just is Ogami, this middle-aged guy who is suddenly thrown into a position where he has to try and relate to a younger audience and is not successfully doing so. I disliked this very much and was angry that this attempt to try and relate a serious issue was mishandled so badly. So I hated this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a very uncomfortable backstory of like, hey, even since I was literally like an elementary school child, people have been treating me this way. And then there's like this weird little detail that it's like, and only unmarried men are the only ones who don't give me all these looks because they know I don't know. I guess they're like, well, I have a wife, so no reason to.
Pissed me off so much. She says that her uncle specifically doesn't give her strange looks because he's married.
And the
what?
The quiet implication is that is also why Ogami does not do it. Is because even though he's divorced now, I think. But like, if you were married, you wouldn't, for some reason, be like, well, this 12-year-old's for some reason extraordinarily beautiful because she's Canadian. Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's very uncomfortable and weird and gross. And I don't quite understand the thought process behind it, but you know, she has a backstory and maybe she'll learn that not all men, Nick. Not all men. Of course, Nick, though, this was the third chapter of Kill Blue, and this is where we had to ask ourselves a very important question about whether or not we're going to continue to discuss Kill Blue going forward. And I think the answer to this is obvious. We need to find out if she is rescued. So, of course, we have to continue to talk about this series indefinitely. Even after it ends, we should start up a side podcast called Killing Blue, or a better name, Wasp Stung, the Kill Blue podcast, Magic Wasp. And then, bada boom, we'll talk about every chapter, panel by panel. Literally, each week will be one panel. I'll be like, not a lot happens in this one. It's actually just a shot of the chalkboard. Looks like he's studying chemistry? No, English.
He's studying triangles that now have two sides.
Yeah. Whoa.
Sorry, one side.
What,
One
Nick?
side.
Whoa! Whoa! Hey!
Look, this is
one-sided triangle, Nick.
No.
A two-sided triangle is fucking insane.
No, this is the philosophical quandary. Even if you limit a triangle to a single line, doesn't it have one side and then another side? You know, the one side of...
Oh, you're talking about the Bizarro triangle. Yes, I mean, that does exist, but only Mr. Mistleplex can help you access those. That's an entirely other dimension, Nick. That side of the triangle has a little evil goatee. It speaks backwards. Yeah, it's a whole thing. You don't fuck with that side, Nick. Did you watch Us? I thought you watched Us.
I did watch that.
So you should know.
My favorite part was when the one-sided triangles other half showed up.
Exactly. And they were like, don't go to that other side of the triangle. That's where the monsters are.
All right. I vote no. So,
well, guys, I tried. I did everything I possibly could. All you Kill Blue maniacs out there, Kill Blue Axe. Unfortunately, I think you're going to have to continue reading that one all on your own.
Tenmaku Cinema is Chapter 4. Hajime and Tenmaku on the town.
True Blue Killers. That's what we can call them.
True Blue Killers is pretty good. Hajime is trying to storyboard out the movie. Tenmaku is really excited by this, but then he looks at some of the drawings that Hajime has made and is like, The Shore is not a fantasy film. What's with the weird planet? And it's like, those are skyscrapers. What's the spaceship? It's a car. Where are those sci-fi structures? Those are trees. He can't draw very good. Poor guy. But Tenmaku says that on top of actually like drawing out storyboards, something that's going to be really important for them to do is site recon. They need to actually figure out where they're going to shoot stuff, especially because, you know, it's not like they can build sets for this whole thing. So they go out to Tokyo. There's a bunch of Tenmaku being like, holy shit, this place has changed in the last 30 years. There's a little joke where some of the dogs being walked can see him. And he's just like, oh, hi guys. So it's nice because he's like, really positive towards them. But of course, Hajime is, really concerned about this. He's like, okay, there's this scene set in Tokyo. Shimada, a third-year boy in high school, is dragged by Nagisa, his childhood friend, into going to Tokyo on an errand. And as they walk around, we learn Nagisa's life story. So it's a crucial scene. So he's walking around. And it's like, okay, look, there's a problem here. There's this statue of Hachiko the dog, and it's supposed to be part of the scene, but it's always mobbed with people. How are we going to shoot something? It's not like we can afford to get places that aren't crowded and stuff. How do we get licenses for this stuff? Are we going to have to do guerrilla filmmaking? Even if we do guerrilla filmmaking, how are we going to get these shots that we need to do? And eventually, when they do find a place where there aren't a lot of people, it's way far away from the station that they want to shoot the scene. So Tenmaku's just pressing upon Hajime yeah, this is why you got to do location scouting, so you're prepared for this kind of thing. And Hajime is again just like, oh my god, it's so hard to do this. But as they're going around, he happens to spot this staircase and leads up to a walking bridge over the street, and just kind of sketches out this rough drawing, and he just kind of imagines this scene of Nagisa standing on the bridge in the rain, and Tenmaku looks like it, and Hajime's like, yeah, because they're crossing a pedestrian bridge, and I really like that scene in The Shore. I've read it 80 times, and just now when I saw this, I kind of just had this vision of it. I know we can't use it because if the characters get wet in the rain, it won't connect to the next scene. And Tenmaku just kind of grabs Hajime's arm, just holds up the drawing, and then he lifts it away, and he can see the scene the way that Hajime imagines it. He visualizes the same thing, and this inspiration takes over him. He gets a surge of energy, and he just takes Hajime over, writes out a new scene, and is like, look, I've connected them. I've figured it out so that we can work around that idea. I just swap out the parts that I fixed. And so there's a new way to do that. And Hajime's like, wow, he just took this whim of mine and do that. This will be but then he's like, wait, it'll just make the scene even harder to shoot if we have to, work in this rainy scene. And Tenmaku's like, yeah, but it'll be even better than if we do that. And then as Tenmaku is looking at Hajime, who's worrying about all this extra work he just made for himself, Tenmaku has a flashback of interacting with the director Shirakawa, who would, come up with these new scenes, and then he says thanks to your stupid storyboard, I had to go and rewrite the script. But Shirakawa just said, I know you, Taki. When you agree to edit your script, it means you're excited about the idea. And Tenmaku just kind of has a little smile to himself, reflecting on this as he looks at Hajime. Hajime that night calls up his friends because he needs some help scouting locations. Unfortunately, his friends are busy. His buddy Akitsu is doing a band gig. The others are... So Akitsu's busy doing a band gig, so he can't do it. And he also, makes a note hey, sorry I can't help. Did you find someone to go with you? Or are you going to be okay on your own? He's just, being nice and checking out checking in on him. But he does so in the group chat. The second time the group chats have come up this week in manga. And as a result of that, Kurai hears about it and demands that they go do location scouting together. So she's presumably going to be, it's presumably going to be the two of them doing location scouting in the next chapter. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a fine chapter. I think there is just inherently an issue with Tenmaku Cinema in that because we don't know the plot of the movie, these scenes don't really hit. I don't have the same emotion of oh my god, what if this scene was rain? This feels very basic, I guess I should say, or very detached. It's hard to feel anything in these moments. So this is fine. I like the emotion behind rewriting the script and all these changes and Tenmaku making his own little mark on the movie, but doesn't have the same impact when you don't actually know what that is in universe.
Even if we had been given kind of a skeleton of how the story progresses, we know in very broad strokes what the movie is about. But if we had like some idea of like, okay, this happens, then this happens, and then this happens. But the only stuff we know is like we know very isolated, specific things about the movie.
We know
instead of
scenes
any of the
pretty much,
context
yeah.
around them. Yeah.
Yeah, still fine though. Enjoying it, having a good time. Nick, we have so many things to talk about. We're already running late.
Got three chapters left.
Chapter 154, Mashle, Magic and Muscles. This is Mash Burn Dead, and how could you? So Mash is back. Innocent Zero is like, all right, one last fight, and then he's like, oh, it seems like I'm finally adjusting to your heart. I can achieve further evolution. And Mash is like, you stole it from me. It wasn't even yours. That wasn't very nice, And Finn's like, yeah, Mash, he's the bad guy. You should do something about it. He's like, okay. And he kicks Innocent Zero's wand out of his hand. And then he grabs it. And he snaps it over his foot. And he throws it to the ground. And then he just starts stomping on it over and over again. Then he dusts up the pieces and hands it back to Innocent Zero. He's like, here you go. Innocent Zero is, of course, just like, what? And then Mash is like, you magic users can't seem to do anything without your wands. So he punches Innocent Zero in the face, sends him flying down. And Innocent Zero is just laying silently on the ground. And there's a lot of silent beats. And they're like, hey, wait, did anybody else hear like a really nasty cracking sound? And there's a little bit of blood behind Innocent Zero's head. And there's just like a thump thump, like it's like a dark as blood starts pulling out of Innocent Zero's head, and there's no life in his eyes. And Finn's like, Mash, did you kill him? And suddenly it's like a new premise. Now he's like, I mean, I know he was awful, but murder? And it cuts to Mash as he's being arrested, and there are interviews of people who have like their voice altered, but it's very clearly Rio Grant's. And Mash is just like, I didn't mean to kill him. And of course, Innocent Zero is not dead. He is expanding his power. He's evolving into his new form. The punch actually broke the seal that he was using to hold himself back. Now he has evolved into a new terrifying, like sort of featureless angel form. It is this big 2-page spread. It's very terrifying. And he's like, my gratitude. I needed immense power to break the seal and achieve further evolution. Now I've reached perfection. He cuts over to Mash, who's digging a hole in the ground with a shovel. And he's like, oh, good. I'm so glad you're alive.
He's gonna bury the body and hide the evidence.
He just kind of like kicks the dirt back into the hole. It's very, very silly.
It's so dark.
It's very dark. I mean, it's very funny because we know Mash has done this before with the vice principal, where he's like, I have to bury the body. I don't know what to tell you.
Stop it. I love that the villain's big I have now achieved full perfection is just completely undercut by Mash being trying to hide a body so he won't get charged for murder. Good take.
Very, very funny.
Elusive Samurai, Chapter 108, Elusive 1335. Tokiyuki, as it turns out, is an oiled-up boy, and he is in the midst of Takauji's army with some bells, tempting people to try and chase him. Whenever they try and grab him, they just slip off of him because he is a scrawny boy who's covered in oil like, a pig that you grease up for a competition. And he's ringing the bell to tempt them while going Demon Come this way and all this stuff. So everyone's like, kill the 10-year-old! And he's dashing around between them, drawing a ton of attention to himself and creating an opening so that his fellows can rescue Yorishige. He also drops in front of Moronow and specifically says, hey, do you know where Fubuki is? And Moronow's like, no, die. I missed. He tries to do the double sword choppy thing, but Tokiyuki just shadow phases away from him. He's dashing around between people so much that they're actually in danger of attacking each other, but he's easily evading them, the entire army, while trying to help out Yorishige. And Yorishige collapses off his horse. Ayako and Shizuku manage to recover him. But Shizuku recognizes that Yorishige is on the verge of death. And she but she thinks if he only had just a little bit more divine energy, he just might live. Yorishige is lying there on the ground. Tokiyuki slides in and picks up this curvy sword that Yorishige wields and forces him to hold it and says, "I'm sorry about earlier. Let's bind ourselves as father and son." And he wraps his long hair around the blade and rips it off so that his hair is cut. So it fulfills the promise that Yorishige would cut his hair later. And while sitting over him, Tokiyuki says, "May the gods be with you, father." And he also wraps his hair around Yorishige so that its divine power will aid him, so that hopefully he'll live. And then he runs back into the fray, saying he's going to carry out Shizuku's plan. Yorishige is in tears of joy as he goes, "And my life is as my life ends, I gaze upon my child smile. Where's that other son of mine?" Apparently he's alive too. Yeah, that guy that vanished after he got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, why wouldn't he be? Nick, come on.
Yeah, he's fine. And then we get a little analysis of why Tokiyuki's ringing the bells, which is that people are at this point like straining their ears to hear the rings, and he's always ringing them in pairs. And so as people like hear the ringing, then they strain their ears to try and find the second one. And then when that one is about to happen, instead, Gimba throws a freaking flash grenade in the air, and it goes off, and everyone goes, "Ah!" And the entire army is stunned. And so the Hojo forces surge forward to attack. Tokiyuki dashes right back into Takauji, somersaults over his head, and lands on his horse, which Kojiro has just led up, and they run away. Well, he says, "You lose," and that's the chapter.
Yes. Fine chapter. Finally, an important haircut. Male character. Well, breaking the boundaries. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Let's talk about One Piece, Nick.
Chapter 1082. Let's go and take it. Quinn, T-Bone died. Who was T-Bone, Quinn?
So I thought you were kidding for a moment. T-Bone, of course, was the character that tried to prevent I forget the name of the train, I don't think it was the Puffing Tom. The sea train that they were taking to Enies Lobby. He's the one who stands on the track. He and Zoro kind of have a brief little showdown, and then he got off to the side. He seemed like he was kind of a good dude, though. So it actually is very sad to find out that, like, he's dead. Like, he was one of the kind of cool Marines.
So one of the more reasonable members of the Navy, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's some conversation over that at Navy headquarters over who the killer is. They have no idea. And there's this kind of discussion of like, yeah, times are changing. This is bad. Where we were stabbed in the back by the citizens that we're sworn to defend, because it wasn't like some big, huge person who did it, they think. And there's some people that, like, I know we've met before, but I don't really know who they are.
In this scene?
Yeah. Otsuru is like, and of course,
it's
Sengoku.
Sengoku. And then
I know him.
The woman. She's the other bondage-related Marine female captain.
Yeah, that would be why.
Tina the
There's
Gauge.
two of them. Right. Tina's the one that, like...
If she touches you, she puts, like, shackles on you.
Ah, okay. Yeah, she was kind of like partnered up with, what, Django?
Django and Full Body. I can't remember his full name. Full Body something. Two very minor characters.
Yeah, they got a cover
story story.
Yeah, and so they're talking about what's been happening. Sengoku's worried about, like, look, cross-skilled, we got to get rid of them. They're sapping the morale of the troops and weakening the Navy. Do you know where Garp is? And Hina says, like, yeah, a few days ago he said, I'm heading off to save Kobe, and I think he went with sword, and Kujaku too. This is the first time that Sengoku and Otsuru have heard about this. So like, what?
What do you mean?
We cut over to Empty Bluffs, where Buggy is rewarding a new kingpin of evil, a champion of evil, some kind of sad old guy who
thank you.
Thank you for the money. My family really needed it, sir. Thank you. And they're like, yeah, you eliminated a vice admiral, you evil motherfucker. Yeah, you're evil. Oh, yeah.
You're so sick. I can't wait to see what dirty things you do next. He's like, probably die of age on the way home, but okay.
Thank goodness my family will get food. It's better than I starve, even I never get to see them again. It's like, I'm a pirate now. You never get to go home. You're great. And everyone's like, oh, Buggy, you're awesome. And someone comes in, refers to Buggy as Baggy Flesh, which is just really random. And he says, the Cross-Guild flagship is ready. Buggy has specifically taken this on, told Mihawk and Crocodile that it would be great. And of course, they've got a giant Buggy as the figure. And he's like, no!
No!
So Mihawk and Crocodile are like, you want us to ride on a clown ship, huh? Meeting room, now. And immediately they torch him again, rip his head off his body, beat the shit out of him. He's like, please just kill me. So they're like, look, the utopia we seek to build is a military nation strong enough to resist any power. For that, we need overwhelming strength. And in order to buy that, we need massive. And he's like, wealth and power, right? If you kill me, yeah, sure, but look. If you call yourselves pirates, why are you chasing after these small-time goals? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you trying to just beg for your life? And Buggy says, you're wasting your time with these lateral moves, boys. You've heard what they're saying, haven't you? Red Hair is making his move. And we rode on the Pirate King's ship together. But neither of us were able to go to Laugh Tale with the others. When you were young, what did you want to be? And we get a flashback from Buggy's perspective of his time with Shanks. And he basically says, like, I knew that Shanks had so much promise that I just gave up on my dreams. Then later, on the day of Gold Roger's death, Buggy, says to Shanks, like, you remember what you said, that you were going to, take your own ship to Laugh Tale? And Shanks just said, yeah, changed my mind. I don't feel like trying to get there right now. But I'll still be a pirate. And he offered Buggy to come with him. But Buggy was like, no, you coward! Don't tell me you've forgotten that you lost my treasure map. Well, I haven't forgiven you. So until the next time we meet, we're enemies! So it seems like Buggy just is not a very mature guy.
He's always been antagonistic towards Shanks, but they have sort of a rivalry relationship.
Yeah. So Buggy says, whether it's by fate or by accident, I'm on the same level as Shanks now. And if he's going to make his move, then I want to be the king of the pirates. He says this through tear-filled eyes with one of them swollen shut and several missing teeth. But it seems like he's actually convicted about this. And he promises Mihawk and Crocodile that they'll have power, wealth, and they're going to take the greatest treasure the world has ever known. And then they just beat him up some more. Like, oh, look, are you seriously going to try and talk us into this? You've got no plan. You've got no preparation. Pirating is a business. And you want us to fight Red Hair and Blackbeard and Straw Hat all at once? And Buggy's like, no! We just have to beat them to the punch! That's the only rule with treasure! Finders, keepers! Remember the passion that these words inspire! All pirates went out and sea in search of this! And he manages to click on a Den Mushi that is right next to where his head is landed, and he starts begging out to the crowd, really getting them riled up by saying, it's like, what was the dream that took you out to sea? Are your souls crying out for meaning and purpose? Don't be cowards, soft and satisfied with the status quo. Reach out for what you want most of all. I've got your backs. Let's go and take it. The One Piece is ours. And everyone's like, yeah!
He just seems so cute. He just wants he wants stream. The One Piece stream.
While he is beaten the fuck up, and they're stepping on, just shut up, Pokey, shut the fuck up. But he gets all that out, and then we leave that scene to Quinn.
I'm gonna note, first and foremost, we've never met any of these characters. I am not learning any of these characters' names. maybe Hiru, because she might be. I don't know. She feels like she's the only one who has a design that like has like an intention behind it. Everything else is just like Oda wanted to draw weird things or whatever. Don't worry, I'm sure fucking Gambo will show up one day and it'll be like, not Gambo. But for right now, I'm just like, I don't have more room in my brain for this series and its characters.
These are all vice captains in the Revolutionary Army who are specifically different.
I don't care about the people. They're general, like they're like underserving underneath. I don't care about the revolutionary captains.
Yep. So, yeah. So it's anyway. We're checking in with the Revolutionary Army, so. Also, Sabo has returned. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Like, holy shit, Sabo's alive.
So Sabo is there, and they're like, "Yay, you're alive!" And Sabo says, "This ship is from Lulusia, the kingdom that just vanished. I'll explain later." Oh man, if there ever was a catchphrase for modern One Piece. So yeah, he's gotten back there safely. Koala is happy to see him, as in she tries to kick him in the back of the head, and he dodges because, not back of the head. It just looked that way because his goggles looked weird when he flipped backwards. So they're like, "Oh my God, you're alive, Sabo!" And Betty says, "It's a real shame what happened to your homeland, lose your people, but I hear you want to enlist in our army." And they're like, "Yes, all right." And then we cut down to where Sabo is having a meeting with Dragon and Ivankov, and he says, "Look," because they ask, like, "Look, can we tell the captains about this?" And Sabo says, "No, because if we do so, it would put their lives in danger. This reverie was a truly wild affair. I'll tell you everything that actually happened in Sacred Marijoa in July." So
it's why, I mean, One Piece definitely has been like, every chapter's been like, holy shit, there's another big world event happening, which makes sense. In 3 or 4 years, One Piece will finally be over. So, you know, we got to slowly work towards it, one way or the other. Good stuff all around. Nick, are you ready to wrap this up?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to just go real quick here. My favorite series this week was One Piece, and my character of the week is Buggy. That's why I didn't say anything at the end there. I wanted to say it here. Great stuff. Like, this is a really good chapter. This is super exciting. The world building is great. Buggy gets like this cool, inspiring moment to like revitalize his relationship with Shanks. Just great stuff.
I'm definitely going to agree with you on Buggy. I mean, he has this big moment where, even though he's really has no room to like make big proclamations, he is completely outclassed in every regard by the other two people he has formed this alliance with, and he is at their mercy, but he is still making these big declarations and has these huge dreams that he is shouting out literally to the masses outside. It's, I think, the coolest that he has ever seemed, honestly. And it does make you believe that, yes, just the power of the connection that he has with the people around him make him one of the 4 emperors. It's this really actually did sell it for me, as opposed to like, isn't it a big joke how Buggy has managed to gain this audience? Like, no, there's a reason that he has drawn these people to him, and I believe that.
Yes.
As terms of my chapter of the week, I don't know. I don't feel like there was anything that really, really stood out to me. I think that I'm going to go with Chainsaw Man.
Okay.
It was fairly quick chapter, but it was just, a very quick, sweet bit, and it had a couple of really funny jokes in it. So
that's all you need.
That's it.
The audience, by the way, picked Mashle as their chapter of the week, and then agreed with us, Captain Buggy for MVP.
Yeah. Guys, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back next week here on twitch.tv/RoloT to talk about more manga. We will start hopefully a bit closer to 7:30 Eastern time. We were delayed because I needed to pay for a ticket to turn my computer on. So that was what happened. I didn't have enough of the premium.
For a moment I was like, Nick, you actually had to do that? That's crazy. I was like, let me know, I could reimburse you.
I had to pay a bunch of. I had to watch a bunch of ads
Yeah.
in order to get the coins necessary in order to get Discord to update.
Yeah, you had to download Burge Mansion and make it to level 47 before you could open up Chrome.
And you think it's got to be quick, because the first 2 levels go by really quickly, and then it turns out, like, oh no, it's just like exponential growth.
This is a couple hours. Holy shit!
Yeah. So it's deceptive, and that's how they get you. And then it's like, well, I've sunk all this time into it, but I've got to get no reward if I don't complete that to that point. So might as well keep going.
And then you're like, I need more currency in this game, so let me see what games they're offering, and they send you back to the first game.
Yeah, we'll be back here on twitch.tv/ReloadC to know exactly when we're going live. Just like join us on Discord or subscribe to one of us on one of the social media things. Give us a follow, and we'll let you know when we start recording. We would like to thank everyone who supports us over on patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, which you can check out, or if you want even more Weekly Manga Recap content, if you're not content with the stuff that's on Spotify, iTunes, and weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. And video versions of the show are on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap, where you can also see an opening sequence made for us by Malajack Stillitz and Winston Cheddar. And artwork for occasional title cards is provided by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet if you look under Steve Man Art. We also want to thank Ninja X3i for maintaining the spreadsheet, the Google Doc, that keeps track of all sorts of different stuff associated with the show. Records that we would have otherwise long since forgotten about, as well as recommendations for future manga that we might consider covering. Drop in your own recommendation if there's something you'd like us to talk about.
Yes.
And that is going to do it, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for this edition of the show.
Yep, I don't have anything else to say. I feel like we've informed you about everything you need to know today, that the coyote and the wolf from Looney Tunes were 2 different characters, but their nose color is different, and triangles have another side. It's dark, and you shouldn't fuck with it.
Yeah, that's how they work.
If I had anything else to offer, I would say it here, but I can't teach you everything. Next time, I'm going to turn my chair around. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have my baseball cap. I'm going to turn it backwards. I'm going to take my shoes. I'm going to spin those around. And I'm going to be like, listen here, kid. We talk, and I'm going to teach you a lot of cool things. But not this week. I'm so tired.
Spin your shoes around. That's
That's what cool kids would do. Bye, everybody.